Brava, Zara. Was it your very first public performance of this piece?
Yes.
It's very good. I hope that you have already profited from it. I remember myself all the time struggling with the first performances, and then as soon as I have played it for the first time, be it a lesson or be it a concert somewhere, from that point on it's a completely different life for this piece. So you just entered that life. It is a perfect time now to practice with the very big microdynamics. So with this you would also get better control of your fingers and also get a better understanding of the shapes of the melodies. Why I tell this is now a perfect time, because obviously you want now to make the dynamics to all not only make sense but also be very easily controllable. So my first suggestion is practice louder. You don't have to aim for the pianissimo right now. You can make way more expressions. You can always reduce later. But in the beginning, you want to have better control with your fingers, which obviously now, at least in the very beginning of the piece, it was a little bit of a struggle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, so let's start very much in the beginning. I do not want to start with the left hand right now. I will return to it later. But I would love you to now see the shapes of the melody. We have all possible different intervals. We start with a long F. Then we would go fourth higher from the E flat to A flat. Then we will return and do some little waves. Obviously you want all those little waves to be supplied with some microdynamic. Would you please now try to do this as rubato as you would prefer? I will stop you again. Play just the highest voice. When the middle voice enters in the bar number 6, do not play it. Thank you very much. Now I have heard between the notes you were always aiming to make some little crescendi and diminuendi. I call it the microdynamic because obviously it is all happening on a quite a microscopic level. You did a very good job here. When you are entering the bar number 10, obviously you have a sequence which inspires you to listen to how every of those fours, A flat goes on a D flat, G flat goes on a C, and then it's again even lower, F on the B, then E flat on the A flat. If this isn't a symbol of getting more and more asleep, I don't know what is then. So you want to not only see the microdynamic with every note, but also you want to see the microdynamic between the segments. You see, every time when you would spot something like this, you would know that every of those little segments, it would have to start already a little bit lower and lower and lower until our eyes are completely shut. Would you start from here, please, from the bar number 9?
Is this just the top line?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess it is a little bit about the limitations of either the program or the computer, but for me, every of those notes, the A flat, the G flat, the F flat, the E flat, they sounded on a very same dynamical level. Did you aim to do it that way, or was this just happening, or did I just hear the wrong thing?
I think I was trying to make it so each sequence is starting quieter and getting quieter, but I think I, without realizing, made the first note of each sequence the same dynamic, if that makes sense.
I see.
Yeah.
Because you see, Zara, on this particular program, it is actually the best program that I know to teach online, but it still has its limitations. So please do not consider me like throwing at you some information if you see that in the room it happened in a different way. What did happen, which I did not particularly like, is I never heard any kind of crescendo going up this triad. You want to have to go upstairs. So try to make it to the little crescendo. You will always be able to reduce it later. Let's do it more right now. Once again from bar number 9, please. That was a very, very good aim right now to make, and you will see later when I will send you the video on this little screen on your right side, you will see that every time I was painting with my fingers some melodical shapes, I always do it when I practice. The first thing that I do when I get a new piece, it's a mental practice of understanding as much about music as I can from just reading it. And one of the things is just painting it and getting my whole body through the fingertip, just to know how the melody is shaped. Does it go down? Does it go up? When we just see the things, it already starts getting inside of our head. But if we are moving with our body, or at least one of the body parts, along, it gets secured inside of our brain in some kind of way. So if it helps you, you can take from that little video on the right side my movements and just try, instead of playing, just painting in the air. It will get you even more understanding. The very same way we can practice each of the melodies here, I want now to concentrate on the bar number 19 and get you to feel every of those fourths going up. The every time going below, lower, 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 even like this sequence that you did before. So let's try to start with the bar 19 with the treble. Very good. And every time you are getting the very first note of the group, the one that you are most probably playing with the first finger all the times, to be the most silent one. It is challenging. The thumb is not used to all the time playing more silent. And the faster you play, the more probability you have that the first finger would start striking. which is completely incompatible with the image of Berceuse that you want to create. So this is why try to aim to make even more diminuendo into the first note of the group, thinking sorry. So the first finger is the very most silent of all of them. Try it once again, start with the 19. Brava. If we could just analyze our tasks here for the fingers, or at least for the ears to hear in the first place, then we would think that we should first of all aim to have the fourth going up, and then again, every time when I'm playing this, I'm also singing for myself. Do you like singing?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes. It helps very much, especially knowing that Chopin sung his whole life through, starting with his childhood age. His teacher was pushing him to sing all the time. And this, I guess, also contributed very largely to this romantical era theory of the piano is a singing instrument. Chopin was just too creative in this singing voice of him. Although the singing as itself, this line, would not be possible for any kind of singer, even for Cecilia Bartoli, to fulfill without any mistakes. But still, we can hear the intention of the composer to sound like somebody is singing here. So let's try once again, controlling again those two elements, down and go down. So you avoid all the accents. You can continue, please. Again, the very same thing happens with the thumb in this bar, when it has to be the lowest one of all. Is it a different feeling right now when you are concentrating on these things?
Yeah, I think I didn't realize how important all the small details in just the right hand were, and so especially things like the thumb, even with having the microdynamics and starting softer makes all the difference to the sequence and makes the Berceuse sound how it should be because of it being a cradle song and a lullaby.
I completely agree with you. Not only because it's a lullaby, there are at least two things that we have to consider first. The first is the singing abilities of the piano. We all have seen this video of Professor Bashkirov trying to teach a student. You remember that video, yes? What happened there? The student did not use the microdynamics, so Mr. Bashkirov was always calling him for being not musical. So that was quite sad to watch the situation. Having said this, when you are using the microdynamics, every of your notes have a different color. And this is exactly what we do to prevent us sounding like a Czerny etude. So this is the first thing. And the second thing is just simple piano acoustics. Because if you consider the piano acoustics, if you see that we have the bigger strings in a lower part of the piano, or the shorter strings that resonate way less in the upper side of the piano, you want to make the fingers to play higher with a little bit more loud precision. Just, to kind of not get the piano to sound like it's always silent and it's always loud. So for this kind of microdynamics are perfect to do. So, and now let's start again from the bar 25, where you have those beautiful thirds. It's a different bar. Exactly. Continue, please. Bravo. Yes. Okay. First of all, the thirds in the beginning, in the very first first recording, I already liked them, but now they have way more quality. I don't know what you are doing. Maybe you are just more cautious or playing a little bit louder, but you have a better control of the overall sequence. Then when you land on this particular place, I would love you to think about your thumbs so you don't sound too much.
Yeah.
Would we start immediately from the 27, please? Just relax the hand. Just completely relax the hand.
I'm trying to make the thumb as soft as possible without making sure the notes don't sound.
I see. Would you think about the F A flat? Don't think about the D flat, A flat. It's a little bit too far for our head to think about. But if you thought from the F, you will get a quite normal shape for your thumb to understand how to react. So let's try it once again. Considering that he writes for you the slurs of two notes all the time, he really wants the second one to be the lighter one. So the first time it kind of happened very well when you played just that. Would you do the very same thing for me in the group? But just don't play the G flat for me right now. Just do the C and the E flat. Exactly. With even more diminuendo, more micro diminuendo. Exactly. Let us then turn to the next group of the D flat E regular. Exactly. Exactly. And then two groups later you... Yes, you know exactly what I need right now. And continue. Yes, and now let us play once again from here all the groups, but every time when you would have the group going downwards, take a little more time before it to concentrate on the below line to really be as well as you played right now. It did help, didn't it?
Yeah.
It is just about the concentration. When we're playing very big material, we have to prioritize what would we think about. I usually think about the things that challenge me the most. So obviously the first thing always being somewhere on the list. Yes, so with all that being said, the right hand would continue to practice in that kind of manner. Every time when you would have a melody that goes up or down, it is normal while you practice to make sure that you make a bigger crescendo, bigger diminuendo, just to make it, just to get it to receive a shape that you later want to fulfill inside of the piano or the pianissimo and so on. We will still return to that. Now I would love you to play only the left hand from the very beginning. Very good. You see, even when you are playing a Berceuse, obviously a very slow piece, you still have to aim for it to have a flow. And if you are playing very, very slowly, it will be very hard to do. At the very beginning of the lesson, when you played it once through, you just kind of got your tempo somewhere from the bar 13. Did it strike you that in the beginning you were slower than you thought of being? Did you notice this, or was it your plan to start more slowly and then to go faster later?
I think I wanted to try and keep it consistent throughout the whole thing, because the left hand pretty much repeats the same pattern the entire way through, so if it changes in tempo, whether it slows down or gets faster, it's more obvious.
Yes.
And so I've listened to quite a few recordings, and the interpretations tend to be in the first two bars, they play the left hand quickly, and then they slow down once the right hand comes in. but I feel like I should try to keep it consistent. So I think if I have changed tempo, it's most likely an accident.
For me, I really want to see the left hand as being somewhat on the loop. Because if this is not the symbol of this constant, of this of freedom of mind, of this complete being sure of the situation, of nothing changing around you, is being completely calm and stable, this is a perfect condition for someone to sing a lullaby and to go to sleep, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the more you change between the piece, the more unstable it gets, not the perfect environment to fall asleep in. So from the very beginning, I think that you have to aim to think not in 6/8 notes, which we usually do when we concentrate very much on details, on a beautiful sound, on just being sure that we fulfill all the details, but thinking in 2/4, every of them having a triplet. Basically the 6/8 and the andante that is written in the score for you, they let us believe that the composer thinks is at some kind of the 2/4, basically saying, it will help you to flow a little bit. And then you can build the right hand above it, just like a variation. Okay, let us start once again from the beginning, thinking not in 6/8 but in 2/4. Just relax even more. You have practiced enough. Add the right hand when you feel like it. Sound for you right now?
I like how when the right hand came in, I was immediately thinking more about the microdynamics, and I like that the left hand felt more relaxed and consistent, but it just feels quite fast to me, probably because I've been practicing it so slowly.
It does feel quite fast. I'm thinking that you could decrease the tempo if you wanted to do just a slight bit downwards, and it will still not affect the whole flow of the music to be worse than it was right now. But what I liked also about it, it felt like one whole melody right now. You know how I practice those things? If I have a very big melody to do, should it be here or should it be in another piece by Chopin, Liszt, or someone who was famous for long singing melodies? I kind of train my body to understand that as one movement. This is what I learned while working with singers. They do it all the time when they need to pressure themselves to not breathe inside of the big melody. So what they do is they just get the piano, they hold it, and then they go backwards with a very slight movement without making alterations, you know, that would disturb the wholeness of the melody. This trick helped me so much understanding the things. When I practice those things right now, I myself tend to train my body to feel like this. Like I'm starting here, and with every note I would go downwards until I would reach the point when the composer allows me to go and breathe again. You can kind of also adjust your body movements to this, at least when you are practicing. For concert performance, I would not do it. It looks a little bit creepy. But at least when you practice, you can get your body to feel like it's one whole movement. When you try this, just, you know, if you wanted to, just play the right hand. But if you feel that you can succeed, play both hands and fulfill this melody until you are here. With one movement. Yes? left hand. It is not bad. The sound quality was not affected by this. But how did you like the feeling of having to contain your body to be in one line a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that I kind of have the right posture for it. I think because I was trying to think about playing the melody, how a singer would perform it, I think that was affecting my movements a little. But it felt better playing it because I felt the phrasing, I was thinking more like a singer and more how Chopin would phrase the music.
Yes. This is a wonderful description. You know, we can actually make a rule out of this. The less movements you are making, the more consistent you get. The more you think like one movement, the less you allow your body to adjust itself to technical difficulties and move with every time, you know, when you have to jump from below to upwards, you will do those movements. They will either affect the melody to be broken into smaller bits or the accents that you didn't even want to make, but they just happen because of, you know, how you react with your body. Okay, so if you like this tempo, let us now try to make as much as possible, just playing the piece through until I stop you the next time when I have something to say. I have got the two major things already which I wanted to work on you with, is for you to understand how important the flow is, and this of course not only with the tempo as itself, but actually thinking that every bar has the beginning and has the middle, and you just have to swing between them. It is a swing. How do you hold it in English? The cradle, yes?
Yeah, cradle.
It is this, yes, cradle. It is a swing of a cradle. If it isn't a symbol on itself, I don't know what is. And then in the right hand especially, how important the microdynamics were. With this, I have to say that I'm very admiring your sound in the left hand. Thank you for having so much time saved of the lesson with me not having to teach you how to grasp those notes, because you are really doing it wonderfully. Let us start from the beginning once again. Try to be consistent in the tempo. This moment, everything was just as you were practicing it for hours after our lessons already. So from this moment, I would love to hear just the middle voice. Just the middle voice, please. Yes, and then of course, this is where it ends, I guess. Until it goes, yes. So, how about trying to also make this to be the main melody right now and to fulfill it with all the most magical microdynamics that you can? Imagine there is no higher melody than this anymore. Already better. Now, after the long note, please be sure that you do not enter the short note. I mean, the long note being the F, being the C, being the F again. So you don't enter with the same energy as you did before, because the time has elapsed and this note will be sought as some kind of an accent. You just don't want to have that reaction. Think diminuendo. Try this out. Yes, continue. You want to use this syncopated note to enjoy it longer. Ta, ta, dee, dee. Two syncopated notes, one after another. And then we move. let's do both voices, but with no left hand, please. You know what I wanted to say, yes? Thank you. Yes. Listen to this carefully once again. And now the challenge is how to get both voices to have their separate microdynamics. For several times, I would actually play it divided into two hands. Would you try doing this? Try this with two hands. Focusing yourself very much on the middle voice, which is also good to do. Now please reshape your focus to the upper voice, so you also supply it with all possible microdynamics, especially when you go on the triada and then on the fourth higher. Try this out. Let's do it one last time. Just do it in your time right now. You don't have to rush yourself, push yourself to be in a tempo. When I practice those things, I allow myself all the time in the world. That is, for me, just fake a practice. That's how I would do, just to be sure that I'm completely in control. I wanted, for example, to note this. So I would allow myself time. So, take over. What you wanted to play, it was E flat, E regular, and F. Don't get mistaken with the text there. Does it change your perception of what is happening in the right hand?
Yes, I think before I saw it as the top line was kind of the main focus, and Chopin had added in the middle line as like harmony, but now I'm realizing it's a duet in a way because they've both got their own melodies, and so I need to treat them separately, if that makes sense.
You are completely right about the word duet. It's actually a duet, it is, really. You see, with Chopin it's very easy to spot a melody when the notes interchange very much, if they make shapes. If you can think of that melody as being main melody in times where main melody is absent, then it is a melody. You cannot treat this as a harmony anymore. This is the polyphonics at their best. So when you practice this, you can also divide it between several hands, just like you would do with a fugue of any composer, and you would get the sense when the hands are free of trying to do two things at once. First of all, you have to train your ear to know what to expect of the sound. And then you can try and make it with the right hand. This is exactly my aim right now. Could you again play the bar number 13 and 14, but with the same microdynamics, the same focus on both sounds, just with one hand? Just be sure that this note is the A flat, okay? You're sometimes changing the score too much. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Does it feel differently right now?
Yeah, I think I know how I want to play it in terms of microdynamics. It's just because it's all kind of under one hand, it's difficult because they're both two different melodies.
It is, but it is just the very, very best training to, in the future, play Rachmaninoff, Ravel, and many other composers who use the very same approach to orchestral kind of division of playing very many voices in two different hands. So I wish you all the best with that, and I hope that with this kind of thing you can get many more voices to control like this when you, for example, play Rachmaninoff, I don't know. It's happening all the time with him.
Yeah.
So, and he learned not with Chopin, not by Chopin, but he learned from Chopin very much. So, let us continue. I loved this place, by the way. You have seen the secret polyphony. It's quite obvious here, but you have also succeeded to fulfill it very well. We have seen this spot right now, and I want you to be a little bit more sure about your microdynamics inside of it, and be sure that you have time to practice this first finger to behave. Okay? But let us then start once again from here. This is what we didn't discuss yet, and I really want to go here. Without the thirds, but just the upper voice. I would love to have the A flat and then upper voice. Think about the intervals, about the 7th, about the 6th, about the 5th, about the octave, and so on. Try this out. Bravo. You understand right away what I wanted to do with the thumb, didn't you? Yes, and now let's involve also the middle voice inside, but keep the very same attention. Bravo. With this logic, our plan actually, it's completely compatible with the dynamical line that either Chopin or Paderewski wrote into the score. You see, with these notes being the furthest from the A flat, so being the loudest. With you, I didn't hear so much of the crescendo right now, as if you were too challenged technically. So try once again, and you can also include your left hand already. I think it will be ready. Out and decrease it to the level that is acceptable for you in terms of playing a lullaby. Yes, but if this is the place where I can show to you what does it mean to make more when you practice, just to get the fingers to control themselves better, then this is the perfect place to show an example. Okay, let us go further and really use the very best out of this this melody upwards, where you are starting with the F and you are having the high note as a G flat, as the 6th highest note. Try this out. Sure, if you are aiming to show some beautiful middle voices inside of this melody, we will still be capable of hearing them. They will not be prioritized as the priority one. But everything what he changes here in the middle voices, it's still audible enough. Okay? If you concentrate on the hierarchy of each of these chords, so every chord is shaped to have the highest note as the most qualitable. So then it will sound just the most beautiful. So try it once again with both hands together. Just don't start on the loudest. flat, B flat, A flat. It's so important. This grado, yes. You can later decrease it, but it's important that you keep the shape of the chord. The quality of the chord is in its highest note. It is a difference whether you are playing shaped or it sounds a little bit muted, like muffled, like somebody speaking like we do now with face masks. So all the time aim for the highest note. So, and then let us go here. It's very important place, both technically and musically. Thank you. In the bar 38, I have clearly heard the stars, you know, the fifth finger melody. What I didn't hear in the bar 37, is it so that you don't think that the repeated A flat is as important as the moving voice?
I just feel like similar with the A flat in there. I don't want to kind of emphasize it too much, so it's just.
Yes. Do not emphasize. This is the right thing to say. But when you are not emphasizing, still keep the control of the sound. It is just the shape of that. It is the very same thing what he did in the first scherzo. You don't want to have this F sharp muffled, because when he finally starts doing, when he starts moving it upwards, you want it to have started with all those F sharps. So it's the same thing here. And then the journey starts. So try once again. Yes, not too much. Not too much. Remember our tempo that we both agreed on as being more compatible with the cradle swing. Brava. Just try for once. It doesn't have to be perfect. The place from the 37 in this tempo, and hear how those stars sound when you are again in this movement. Of left hand alone, just to feel the tempo, and then enter the right hand on it. Try this. 2 bars left, and just go along now. Place on, you would have the grouping of 4 notes that would shape. You can use this, okay, as the shape going all the times in a sequence, down, more below, more below, more below, more below, and getting more and more silent. But now in this place where we had before, it did sound way more natural for me. Just in this bar, I really, really missed the A flat. Yeah, it just sounded for me now as the orchestra was missing the triangle player. I have nightmares about this. My teacher once, Jurgis Bilavžeskis, he told me that he had to perform the Liszt's piano concerto #1, and the third movement famously starts with tiling tiling, and the triangle player, he came to work without being so sober, and he fell asleep, and it was ruined. It's a real story. I still have nightmares. It's good that I don't play this piece anymore. So let us try once again from here, but again, 2 bars of left hand beforehand, just to see the flow. And now flow along. And now relax. Yes. Did you try to make it more relaxed right now? I even made this movement and that's realized what I wanted to do. One of my favorite things to do during the year is to go and see the firework championship that takes place in Hanover. And every time, the fireworks shoot and then suddenly, they just go down and go down until they reach the water. So it is an equivalent in music of this kind of effect. And to fulfill this, you don't really need to aim to make everything to be sung through. You already have a quality, you practiced enough. Just relax your hand and see how little of those microdynamics should be left there, just to make it sound completely free. That wasn't the best quality that I can do, but I could do it more with practice. And you did practice already, so try this. I think now we have both seen already how much involvement does the tempo and the movement have. Yeah, everything what I tend to do when I practice is I over pressurize on the piano. I make an extensive dynamic. I try to excessively get the dynamic, to get my fingers all in shape so I am completely in control of the piano. But then you have to overstep this and go into the next phase of practice. I call it having fun. So sometimes, you just take a flow and just go and flow along and see how much did you profit already from this detailed practice. How much did you really need out of this? It's just like carving a wood. You have a big piece, in the end you would just have a shape that you need for yourself. Okay? So you are now in this phase where you already did a great job. I want you to still practice a little bit louder those places, especially where you want to reshape your microdynamics, where you want to take a bigger and better control of your thumb, which is one of the biggest challenges in this piece altogether. And then just turn on the loop in the left hand and have fun. It's nothing else than an improvisation on the theme of a Berceuse. Okay? So, with this being said, I know how you perform, I know your sound, you will be great with this piece and the audience will be very thankful.